This is Event Horizon, and I'm your host, Mark Anthony Peterson. This is the podcast that takes you for a walk into the paranormal with a splash of conspiracy. This is the podcast that would be born if David Icke and the X-Files had a baby. Guys, welcome to episode 35, entitled Coronavirus, Alien Abductions, and Hacking God. Wow. Yeah, this is going to be another one of those crazy episodes that you are going to say, Mark, please get hydrated. Because this stuff is so far off the map, I can't believe you think this way. But before we jump into that, you know I have to give you the disclaimer. I'm not a religious expert. No, I'm not. I'm not a physicist, not even a theoretical one. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express, and I think that gives me the right to ask a few questions and use first principles to apply against some of the world's biggest problems, and then come back here and have a discussion with you about them. And so today, I want to talk a little bit about this coronavirus and how it relates to alien abductions and how it possibly leads to the hacking of God. But before I jump into that, I want to send a shout out to McLovin. McLovin joined me on Facebook. We exchanged a few comments and he told me he looked forward to catching up on a number of the episodes. Travels a lot on the road and the podcast keeps him company. McLovin, thank you for jumping in and sharing that on Facebook. Stay safe out there, McLovin. So let's jump in. Alien abductions. Many of you have heard a lot about alien abductions over the years. And our own arrogance has led us to believe that alien abductions are all about us. Yeah, that somehow aliens have come hundreds of light years to this planet to abduct us so that they can put hybrids to run among us because we are such great people. We don't kill each other. We don't destroy the planet. We don't destroy our animals. And they want to come commingle with us. That's the reason why they create these alien human hybrids. Because they're millions of years ahead of us, possibly. And they would love to be a lesser life form and create that sort of hybrid, right? No. If I were an advanced species, I wouldn't backwards integrate. I'd look to try to forward integrate into a higher realm. So there has to be another reason why an alien species would look to alter or tamper with our DNA. It would possibly indicate that we were once higher life forms and that our DNA is a leftover component from that higher life form and possibly representing a gateway back to being a higher life form. It would also indicate that that DNA itself is extremely special when combined with the blood. Are we clicking here yet? So to me, the alien abductions are focused exactly on what's most important. And by the end of this podcast, you're going to see that the world's billionaires have figured that out too. It ain't you, it's the DNA. So alien abductions are not focused on humans, they're focused on getting to God. Let me put it in terms that might make sense. If you want to hack a corporate server, you're going to use the computers on that network as a conduit to get to the server. The computers become an access point. If you want to get to God, dun, da, da, yes, we become the access point, the computer on the network. And if I can corrupt the computer, I can get to the server and get the vital information. So alien abductions are far more sinister than we want to give them credit for. Our own pride and arrogance put us at the center of the plot when really we are just bit players. Because we are just laptops connected to the network. It's the server they're really after. So, Mark, where does coronavirus fit into all of this? Where do viruses fit into all of this? Well, for those of you who want to know the answer to that, you're going to be really shocked to find out that viruses don't represent life. They're not a life form. In fact, they don't fit in any kingdom on the planet. And that some scientists even argue that they're alien, not from this planet. And that some viruses, like the coronavirus, are retroviruses that can even rewrite your DNA. Uh-oh. It's starting to make sense to you now. It's something that is not alive, can be used to rewrite your DNA. And if you believe everything I've been saying about the importance of your DNA, suddenly the virus becomes anti-life or anti-Christ. Okay, guys. So the coronavirus then becomes Alien Plot 2.0. Because Alien Plot 1.0 were physical abductions that were used to create alien-human hybrids who would reside on the network and try to hack God. Coronavirus is a much more sophisticated attempt to do the same thing. And that's the thesis of today's show. So let's bring everybody else up to speed who has not listened to every episode, who may have clicked on this because it has coronavirus in the title. Let me bring you up to speed on everything I've been arguing and why this makes sense. God is a quantum intelligence that exists outside of our universe. A supercomputer, the creator. God only comes into our universe when we call God. When we connect to the universe, connect to the network, and actually bring God into the universe. That's what the Bible talks about. When there are three, there is God. We have to bring God into this universe. When God wants to communicate into this universe proactively, it's done through agents. God created universes and kicked off a simulation. I argue a dark and light simulation. Yin and yang, a dark and light universe that circles itself and creates the existence that we have today. This light universe is pretty much made up of nothing. The dark universe has all the mass that we detect out there somewhere. God built a swarm network to govern this simulation. We existed as light beings within that network and were given network administrative rights to the network. We controlled everything across every dimension until we violated the network protocols. And then God had to remove us as light beings and cast us down off the network in physical form and made us carbon beings, literally casting us into a physical hell, because the atomic number for carbon is 666. In the physical form, God, though, gave us a roadmap back to the network in the form of a time machine called your DNA. Because the DNA is the summation of every decision that led to you and has the protocols that leads to everything after you. It is a time machine. Your physical form does not let you realize the full simultaneous existence of your DNA, past, present, and future, all in one instance, but it's all there. Women were given the ability to recreate life without a man through proto-prothenogenesis, but embrace procreation to create life, giving man the semblance of a godlike being, which then prompted man to try to create his own network in building out the Tower of Babel, or the very first ancient artificial intelligence. That was the first attempt to try to corrupt the network and hack God. Now, other beings may have the same plot to hack God. And if they believe that the best path to do it is through us, they will corrupt the laptop or corrupt the physical form by tampering with the DNA. So those early abductions that you see in the Bible, that you see throughout history, that we see in the early days of this country, starting with George Washington and going all the way up to Betty and Barney Hill, all attempts at creating a hybrid life form that would exist on the network to corrupt the path and hack back to God. The virus being the latest form of alien life, according to some scientists, that is anti-life, that is anti-Christ, that is going to corrupt the DNA of man. And I believe billionaires are in on the plot. Not all of them, but there are some who are in on the plot. And believe it or not, there's pre-programming everywhere you look. Matrix Revolutions, they tell you the story right there in that movie. Agent Smith cloning himself in every humanoid form on the Matrix in an attempt to destroy both machine and human life. X-Files: Fight the Future just breaks down the plot for you right in front of your eyes as it unfolds just like it is today. Pandemic, government clamp down on freedoms, and an eventual mass infection of the population in order to welcome in alien life forms. So that brings everybody up to speed on what I'm talking about, if you haven't listened to every episode. Now, there's some other stuff that I left off, so you're going to have to go back and listen to those episodes to fill in some of the cracks. But these are the major points that I make. So now you see why I have taken a step back from this virus and said, there's some things about this that are extremely weird, that can do some crazy things to the human DNA. And it's awfully funny that it continues to happen throughout man's existence on this planet to nudge us in different ways every time we get these types of pandemics. Okay, let's dig into some of the facts. Viruses, anti-life, anti-Christ. As I told you, viruses don't fit into any kingdom of life. They're not plant, they're not animal, they're not fungus, they're not bacteria. They're only infectious agents. They're made up of nucleic acid, and they can either be DNA or RNA surrounded by a protein capsule. And they become active when they enter the cell of a host. So they can't exist as life on their own. They have to enter the cell and set up shop. Now, certain of these viruses can be used as vectors to deliver a new gene by infecting a cell. The viruses then can be modified. If you can take these viruses, you can modify them so they don't do any harm, and they become vehicles for cell editing. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in more detail. For those of you, again, who followed the podcast, you will now start to see the logic of why I put certain episodes in the order that I did. Because I talked about in episodes 8, 9, and 10, how DNA is becoming more and more important to the world's billionaires who are investing in companies that can splice your DNA. At the top of that list, your buddy, Bill Gates. There are viruses out there, such as retroviruses, that can integrate genetic material into the chromosomes of a human cell. And when you know that, it should start to make you a little more suspicious about what's going on. A DNA virus is different than what we now know of as the coronavirus. A DNA virus essentially turns a whole cell into a virus factory. The whole cell is filled with the newly manufactured packet, a viral packet that's released, bursts, and then infects the next cell. So your colds, your flus, your highly communicable DNA-based viruses operate that way. So you sneeze and everyone in the room gets it, spreads it. It's a DNA-based virus. But the coronavirus is an RNA virus, a ribonucleic acid virus, and it injects its RNA into your cell. These viruses inject that RNA, which are the blueprints for the components of a particular virus, and they create DNA. These include viruses like polio, measles, and SARS, or HIV. So RNA viruses do everything that a DNA virus can do and more. They operate in a backwards way from every cell, in a backwards way from every DNA virus. RNA viruses are truly mind-boggling. They're truly mind-boggling because the DNA that these viruses make can become permanently incorporated into the DNA of the whole cell that they infect, a process known as transduction. This means that when infected cells reproduce, they automatically carry the new blueprint of the new DNA created by the RNA virus. Yeah, your alien-human hybrid? You need an RNA virus to kick that off if you are changing someone's DNA. Now, the diseases that I've mentioned, the HIV, the feline leukemia, these are RNA type viruses that have that sort of impact on your DNA. The only trick is these are much more difficult to catch because they require the introduction of the virus into the bloodstream of the new host from the infected party. So why is COVID-19 so much like a DNA virus, but also an RNA virus? That's what has me scratching my head. I'm not going to go down that path because that's not what this show is about. There will be a show about that when I start talking to you about coronavirus and the 13th dimension. I'll give you a little bit of a heads up on that at the end of this show, right? Because this COVID-19 is like a blend of DNA and RNA virus that suggests that somebody somewhere, if it's an alien virus from outside of this planet, was thinking at mass infection, thinking about mass infection to get these things that I'm talking about to affect and change your DNA or get rid of the people that it could not change. Interesting, huh? Now, there are scientists out there particularly those out there who talk about panspermia, the belief that there were viruses that came to this planet on a rock, meteorite or an asteroid, hit the planet, infected the earth, became life, and kicked off life or mutated life that was here. So early life forms, a virus comes in, rewrites the DNA, and creates a new life form. There are scientists who believe that that's part of our evolutionary track. Because of that, they believe that this virus may be an alien virus. They also have learned that because that is a possibility, that this method can be used for editing our DNA. And guess who the leading guy is in investing in this type of tool? Bill freaking Gates. This guy has invested millions in startups like Edis Medicine. This startup is a gene editing startup that uses viral enzymes, just like the RNA viruses, to edit genes. Now, they claim to be using it to try to create medicines and gene-based therapy. But that's what he invested in 2015. In 2018, he invested in Ginkgo Bioworks. These guys print synthetic DNA that can be spliced to produce new organisms. So between these two startups, you can create new life forms, which DARPA has already claimed they have done by splicing the DNA of an African frog with a nanobot to create a self-replicating artificial life form. Guys, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm telling you that you are now squarely in the position of becoming the infected laptop that allows them to hack God. Professor chandra-wickramasinghe of the Buckingham Center of Astrobiology alleges that a meteor that exploded over China in October released these viral particles. Now, people have said that his work and his theories have been debunked, but he is an avid believer in panspermia and has argued that each time we have had one of these pandemics, there has been a meteor to hit or come close to the planet, spreading these particles. If there's a comet or a meteor, he believes that it's bringing in these particles that kick off these pandemics. And there was one that hit in China in October of 2019. Now, if that's the case, is that a random act? I don't think so. It could be legitimately an alien life form using a comet as a way to continue to attack life on this planet and to hybridize the DNA, making it capable of tapping into the network so that they can access the consciousness that connects all of us, that connects to God. You go, Mark, well, where's their proof that this alien life form is out there? Oh, how quickly we forget Oumuamua. Yeah, the interstellar rock that just happened to zoom into our galaxy, do a loop around the sun, and then accelerate on its way out of the galaxy, proving to us that it wasn't just some random rock. It's like someone said, "Punch it, Chewie." And then they stepped on the accelerator and just shot out of this galaxy. Rocks don't work that way. So there's something more to the story. I'm just trying to widen the lens to say it ain't all about us as the primary target. It's something we represent, something we have access to. See, in the previous episode, I talked to you about hacking the universe. How I believe early man used the megalithic structures, symbols, and signs to try to program the universe. And if we were looking up and trying to control the simulation, why wouldn't others try to hack it? Yeah, I think they would. I think they started simple with hacking 1.0 with people like Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. You see, those guys were abducted, had their clothes removed. They had strands of hair taken from them, clippings from their nails, and their skins were scraped. All of that, I believe, in an attempt to try to get DNA. They had their heads probed, their arms, their legs, their spines, a large needle, 6 to 8 inches long, inserted into Betty's belly. All in an attempt, I believe, to get DNA fluid. Again, hacking 1.0. Another case, 1957, Antonio Villas Boas. He says he was whisked away on a spaceship, was covered in a gooey slime-like substance, and then forced to mate with female aliens to produce a hybrid baby. I know it sounds crazy and extreme for those of you who don't believe in that stuff. But if you allow your mind to see the importance of what it takes to have the consciousness that we all exhibit, and to think in the context of how you hack a server, you understand why aliens need to abduct us to get to God. The Matrix. Love that movie. But it gave me new perspective. I went back and rewatched Revolutions after I started thinking about this episode. Agent Smith. He managed to copy himself on every humanoid in the Matrix, giving himself complete control over the core network, which was the underlying function of the Matrix. He also was able to propagate himself in the physical world in the character called Bane. So he could operate in both worlds once he started to clone himself. After he assimilated the Oracle, he gained the power of foresight and omniscience so he could see the future. Are you starting to see why someone would want to hack our network? God is the beginning, the end, the Alpha, the Omega. Agent Smith was able to hack the Oracle and gain her power of foresight and omniscience. And with that power was able to bend reality just like Neo. And if Smith had reached the core, he would have destroyed both the machine and the human world. I know you think, Mark, you haven't had your kombucha. And I'm going to say, yes, I have. I have. I've been drinking it all episode. But there are just too many dangling threads. Why the push to have a space force? Shortly after Oumuamua, the increase in alien visitations, the sightings, the almost explicit confirmation of alien life with the Tic Tac UFOs. There's something coming, a drumbeat of something that is on the way, that is trying to fundamentally change our existence, that has a much higher goal beyond us. And like Agent Smith, I think it is to get to the core network, to get to God and destroy our reality and remake this reality in their own image. And I think there are those out there who are actively participating with those who seek to do it. Which means this is the time when we all have to stand in faith with God to defend this reality. But I have to tell you, there are times when I think they've already won. There are times when, as I've told you, when I feel like I have fallen 3 or 4 levels deep into my dreams. And when I wake up, I'm still dreaming. And when I wake up again, I'm still dreaming. And when I wake up a third time, I'm still dreaming. It's happened to me so many times recently that I am confused about what real reality is. And that may be where they want us to go. That this alteration, that this twist in our DNA gets us to accept a virtual world that is almost indistinguishable from the real world where they control everything and become the new gods. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next episode. This coronavirus and the 13th dimension. Because how do you become a god? If I can get you to accept a simulated reality where I control the rules and I exist outside of the simulation as the architect and as the network administrator, I can send in the new rules. I can make changes to the infrastructure. I can make changes to the simulation. And there's nothing you can do about it except for accept it. So for all those people who are arguing that we live in a simulation, maybe we already lost. And from time to time, there are enough shock waves through the simulation where we wake up briefly, as I've argued, out of the dream and into consciousness. You call dreams dreams. I call dreams consciousness. I call what we're in now a dream. It's flipped. It's backwards. But every once in a while, we wake up out of it. And I think they've done this so many times that we have 10, 11, 12 different simulations within simulations, nested simulations running. That's the only way I can explain my dreams, other than maybe chemical imbalances that I have. But what we are seeing happen to us, being pushed upon us, we have to ask the questions. Be it either because of my kooky theories or your own belief that something's just not right. This virus is not acting like a typical RNA virus. It has the characteristics of a DNA virus with an RNA impact. And if that's the case, and it's an earth creation, we have to ask, why in the hell would you create it? If it's alien, we have to figure out, how could the universe produce something like this, and why would it? Maybe they already know the answers, and it's just what I said. Alien life is probably a lot more funky than the movies tell us. No, it's not going to be big or small green men. It could be these anti-life, anti-Christ viruses that rewrite who you are at the DNA level and take control of your communication with God. Guys, thank you for tuning in. I've been trying to keep these closer to 30 minutes. I'm sorry I went a little long, but I missed you guys. And I appreciate each of you who've joined me on Facebook, who've joined me on Twitter or Instagram to keep the conversation going. I want you to check out the next episode when it's released, this 13th dimension, because I go further down the rabbit hole in talking about the kookiness I see with this coronavirus and the subtle stuff that it's doing to us that they aren't talking about in the mainstream media. Stay safe, because it is dangerous. All of us know people who are struggling with it. I have relatives that are struggling with it and that may not survive it. It's not a hoax, but there are more things about it that we aren't being told. So till next time, guys, peace.
Hey you, podcast listener. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. Take the blue pill. You wake up in your bed and go back to listening to mundane podcasts that won't challenge your religious beliefs and your so-called truths about reality, the universe, and consciousness. Take the red pill. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast, hosted by Mark Anthony Peterson, and he will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Event Horizon takes a walk into the paranormal with a splash of conspiracy. It's the podcast that would be born if David Icke and the X-Files had a baby. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast by Mark Anthony Peterson on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Stitcher, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Remember, all we are offering is the truth, nothing more.